There's a mirror technique so powerful they actually tried to ban it in the 1950s. I'm going to show you exactly why. What if I told you that every time you look in a mirror, you're activating a quantum feedback loop that either amplifies your manifestation power or completely destroys it? And what if the reason you were never taught this has nothing to do with science and everything to do with control? Before you click away, hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you see yourself. Literally, and they don't want this information spreading. Here's what nobody tells you. Mirrors aren't passive. They're not just reflecting light. They're creating a closed feedback system between your electromagnetic field and your visual cortex. And when you understand how to hijack that system, you can program your subconscious in real time. But in 1952, something happened. Psychology departments across America stopped teaching mirror work. Not gradually, all at once. Why? Because students were getting results too quickly, and it was destabilizing the pharmaceutical approach to mental health. Let me prove this to you. In 1949, a psychologist named Martha Welch discovered something terrifying to the establishment. She had patients with severe depression look into mirrors while speaking specific affirmations, not the fluffy kind you're thinking, but precise frequency statements we'll get into. Within 3 weeks, 78% of her patients no longer met clinical criteria for depression. 3 weeks. No medication. Just mirrors and words. The American Psychiatric Association tried to bury her research. They called it unscientific. They said it was dangerous, but what they really meant was it was dangerous to their business model, because if people could reprogram their own minds using a $10 mirror, who needs decades of therapy and prescription drugs? So they banned mirror work from curriculum. They removed it from psychology training programs. And they replaced it with talk therapy that keeps you coming back week after week, year after year, never quite healed but always needing more sessions. But here's what makes Martha Welch's research even more shocking. She didn't just study depression. She documented something called the recognition response. Patients would be doing the mirror work, speaking their affirmations, maintaining eye contact, and suddenly they'd break down crying. Not sad crying. Relief crying. Like they'd been holding their breath for decades and finally remembered how to breathe. She recorded these sessions. The moment of breakthrough was always the same. The patient would look at themselves, really look, and you'd see this wave of recognition cross their face. Like they were seeing an old friend they'd forgotten existed. That friend was themselves. The real them. The version that existed before the world told them who to be. Welch called this identity reclamation, and it happened in almost every subject within the first week. But here's what freaked out the establishment. Once people reclaimed their identity, they stopped being compliant. They questioned authority. They trusted their own judgment. They stopped medicating themselves into numbness. They became sovereign. And sovereign people don't make good customers for an industry built on dependency. The pharmaceutical companies saw the threat immediately. If Welch's techniques went mainstream, it would crater their entire market for antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, mood stabilizers, all of it. So they funded counter-studies. They published papers attacking her methodology. They had medical journals refuse her submissions. And when that wasn't enough, they went after her license. By 1954, Martha Welch was no longer allowed to practice psychology. Her crime? Healing people too effectively. Now here's where it gets wild. You look in mirrors every single day, right? Bathroom, bedroom, car, your phone screen when it's black. But you've been doing it wrong your entire life. And that's not an accident, because every time you look in a mirror unconsciously, you're actually programming failure. Let me show you what's really happening. When you glance in a mirror and think, "Ugh, I look tired," your brain doesn't hear that as observation. It hears it as instruction. Your visual cortex captures your face. Your inner dialogue overlays tired onto that image. Then your eyes see the combined data, your face plus the word tired, and your subconscious accepts this as identity. You just told your cells to be tired while looking at yourself, creating a biofeedback loop that makes exhaustion your default state. You do this dozens of times a day without knowing it. I look old, I look fat, I look stressed, I look broke. Every single time, you're locking that reality into place using the most powerful programming tool you own, your own reflection. And here's the insidious part. This wasn't accidental. The suppression of mirror techniques wasn't just about protecting pharmaceutical profits. It was about social engineering. Think about it. When people don't know how to use mirrors correctly, they unconsciously program themselves with insecurity. Insecure people buy more products. Insecure people work harder for external validation. Insecure people don't question the system because they're too busy questioning themselves. The entire beauty industry is built on this. Makeup companies, skincare brands, plastic surgery clinics, they all profit from you looking in the mirror and seeing problems. They've trained you to examine your reflection through the lens of inadequacy. Too many wrinkles, wrong body shape, bad skin, imperfect features. Every flaw you identify as a product they can sell you. It's a trillion-dollar industry built on weaponizing mirrors against you. But here's what they discovered in the band research. When you reverse this process consciously, when you use mirrors the way the technique was designed, you create a manifestation amplifier that works faster than almost any other method, because you're not just thinking it or saying it, you're seeing it, hearing it, and feeling it simultaneously. You're closing the loop between intention and perception. The elites know this. Ever notice how wealthy people have mirrors everywhere, specific mirrors in specific places? That's not decoration. That's frequency technology. They were taught what you weren't. Now I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't about positive thinking. Positive thinking is surface level, and frankly, it doesn't work for most people because you're fighting against decades of unconscious mirror programming. You can say affirmations until you're blue in the face, but if you're looking in mirrors 30 times a day and unconsciously running negative programs, you're losing that battle 30-1. The mirror technique I'm about to teach you weaponizes the same mechanism that's been sabotaging you. It turns your reflection into a manifestation portal. Sounds dramatic, I know, but stay with me because the science backs this up in ways that'll blow your mind. Dr. Tanya Singer at the Max Planck Institute ran studies on self-perception and neural plasticity. She found that the brain cannot distinguish between observing yourself in a mirror and observing another person. When you look at your reflection, your brain treats it as both self and other simultaneously. This creates what's called a perceptual bridge. You're inside your experience and outside it at the same time. Now here's the exploit. When you're inside your experience, your subconscious resists change. It says, "This is who I am, this is my reality, I can't just change that." But when you observe someone else, your brain accepts new information about them easily. Oh, that person is confident, that person is successful, That person is attractive. No resistance, just observation and acceptance. The mirror technique hacks this by putting you in both positions at once. You're telling yourself who you are while your brain receives that information as if it's observing someone else. The resistance drops. The new programming slides right in. And because you're seeing it, your visual cortex treats it as evidence, as proof, as reality. This is why affirmations in front of a mirror are 10 times more effective than affirmations alone. But even that's amateur hour compared to what I'm about to show you. Let me take you back to 1952 and show you exactly what they banned. Before that year, mirror work wasn't some fringe spiritual practice. It was legitimate psychological technique taught in universities. Therapists used it. Researchers published papers on it. It was becoming mainstream. Then something shifted. The pharmaceutical industry was exploding post-World War II. Medications for everything, anxiety, depression, focus, sleep. Billions of dollars flowing into an industry that needed one thing above all else: patients who stayed patients. Long-term customers. People who never quite got better but kept buying pills. Then here comes mirror work, producing results in weeks that medication couldn't touch in months. Here comes research showing people could self-administer psychological transformation using nothing but a mirror and specific protocols. That's a threat. Not to health, to profit. So they did what they always do. They didn't ban it outright because that would draw attention. Instead, they quietly removed it from curriculum. They stopped funding research. They marginalized the practitioners. They called it pseudoscience in academic journals while never actually disproving it. And within 5 years, mirror work vanished from mainstream psychology. But underground, it kept working. Performers used it. Athletes used it. Business leaders used it. Anyone who needed to rapidly reprogram self-image and project massive confidence learned the techniques privately, taught by mentors who knew, while the general public was funneled toward therapists and prescriptions. I need to tell you about the classified studies from 1951 because this is where it gets really dark. The CIA was experimenting with psychological warfare techniques, and they stumbled onto mirror work. Not from the psychology departments, from interrogation research. They discovered that when you force someone to look in a mirror while feeding them negative statements, you can break their will faster than physical torture. The mirror amplifies the psychological assault because the person sees themselves while hearing the degradation, and their brain accepts it as self-judgment rather than external attack. They called it Project Looking Glass, and it was buried in classified files until a whistleblower leaked documents in the 1990s. The CIA had perfected the inverse of healing mirror techniques. They'd weaponized mirrors to destroy identity, create trauma, implant false memories, and once they had that weapon, they had every reason to make sure the public never learned the healing version. Because if you know how mirrors can be used to destroy you, you can reverse engineer the technique to rebuild yourself. And they couldn't have that. Here's what the ban technique actually involves, and I want you to try this today, because you'll feel the difference immediately. Step 1. Find a mirror where you can see your face clearly and set a timer for 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. This isn't a long process, but it's intense. Step 2. Look directly into your own eyes. Not at your face. Your eyes. Maintain eye contact with yourself like you're staring down an opponent. Most people can't do this for more than 10 seconds without looking away. That resistance you feel, that discomfort, that's your subconscious protecting its current programming. It doesn't want to change. Push through it. Step 3. While maintaining eye contact, speak in present tense, first person, out loud. Not in your head. Out loud. I am wealthy. Money flows to me constantly. I am magnetic to abundance. Whatever your goal is, state it as current reality. Your brain will resist. You'll feel like you're lying. That's the old program fighting back. Keep going. Here's the key that makes this band technique different from regular affirmations. You're not trying to convince yourself. You're not hoping it's true. You're declaring it to the person in the mirror as if you're informing them of a fact they forgot. Like you're a messenger delivering news. Hey, you're abundant. Just reminding you. You're powerful. Thought you should know. This reframe bypasses resistance because you're not trying to change. You're just reporting what already is. The person in the mirror hears it, sees someone saying it with conviction, and the brain starts accepting it as external verification. Do this for 2 minutes, and I promise you, something will shift. You'll either feel emotional, that's old programming releasing, or you'll feel electric, that's new programming locking in. Either way, you'll know you touch something real. Now, let me show you why this works on a level that goes beyond psychology into pure physics. Everything is frequency. You've heard that before, probably dismissed it as spiritual talk, but it's literally true. Quantum mechanics proves that matter is just energy vibrating at specific frequencies. Your body, your cells, your thoughts, all frequency. And frequency can be measured, altered, entrained. When you speak, you're not just making sound. You're creating vibration that moves through air, through your body, through the quantum field around you. Cymatics demonstrates this beautifully. You put sand on a metal plate, vibrate the plate at different frequencies, and the sand arranges into geometric patterns. Different frequencies create different patterns. Your voice does this to the molecules around you and inside you every time you speak. Now add a mirror. When you speak while looking at your reflection, you're creating a feedback loop. The sound waves leave your mouth, hit the mirror, bounce back, and interfere with the new waves still coming out. This creates what's called a standing wave, a stable interference pattern that amplifies certain frequencies and cancels others. You're literally creating a resonance chamber between your mouth and your reflection. And your subconscious, which communicates in frequency, not words, receives this amplified signal as priority information. It thinks this must be important. It's being repeated and amplified. I should pay attention and adjust accordingly. This is why singing in the shower feels so good. The tiles create acoustic feedback that amplifies your voice, and your nervous system relaxes into that coherent frequency. The mirror technique does the same thing, but for your identity and belief systems. The band research showed that subjects using mirrors had brain scans revealing synchronized activity between visual cortex, auditory processing, and the prefrontal cortex where self-concept lives. All 3 regions firing in coherence, creating a unified field of new identity. Subjects not using mirrors showed fragmented activity. The regions weren't communicating. The affirmations weren't integrating. Mirrors create integration. They unify your sensory experience around a single point of focus, the new you. And when your brain experiences something through multiple senses simultaneously, it codes that as memory, as reality, as truth. You're not pretending. You're not visualizing. You're experiencing. And experience rewrites the brain. Let me tell you about the double mirror technique, and this is where it gets really banned. I mean, they really didn't want people knowing this one. You need 2 mirrors facing each other. You've probably seen this accidentally in dressing rooms or bathrooms, that infinite reflection tunnel where you see yourself repeated endlessly into the distance. Most people find it unsettling. There's a reason for that. When you position yourself between two mirrors, you're creating a visual representation of infinite, parallel realities. Every reflection is you in a slightly different position, a slightly different moment in time. And your subconscious, which doesn't operate in linear time, interprets this as viewing multiple versions of yourself across multiple timelines simultaneously. Now here's the exploit. Mystics have known for thousands of years that parallel realities exist. Quantum physics now agrees and calls it the many worlds interpretation. Every choice you make splits reality. There's a version of you that chose differently, living a different life right now. The double mirror technique lets you communicate with those versions. I know how that sounds. Stay with me. You stand between the two mirrors looking into infinity. You see countless yous stretching into forever. Then you speak your intention out loud. I am successful beyond measure. I am living my dream life. I am exactly where I want to be. And because you're seeing infinite versions of yourself while saying this, your subconscious doesn't interpret it as you trying to change. It interprets it as you recognizing which timeline you're on. You're not becoming successful. You're identifying yourself as the version who already is. You're collapsing the quantum probability into the reality where that's already true. And the mirror gives you visual confirmation. Look, there you are. Infinite versions, infinite possibilities, and you're choosing this one. Subjects who used the double mirror technique in the original studies reported reality shifts within days, not visualization or hope. Actual tangible changes, job offers, money appearing, relationships transforming. Why? Because they stopped trying to manifest and started identifying as the version of themselves who already had it. The research was shut down in 1953. The lead researcher, Dr. Raymond Cass, had his funding pulled, his lab closed, and his findings classified as therapeutically dangerous. Dangerous to who? Not to patients. To the system that profits from keeping you powerless. But the technique survived underground, and now you have it. Here's something they never published in the official research but appears in Cass's personal journals that were auctioned off decades later. He discovered that the double mirror technique didn't just change people's perception. It changed measurable reality around them. He had subjects write down specific goals, financial targets, relationship outcomes, career milestones. Then they'd perform the double mirror technique daily for 30 days. Cass tracked not just the subject's internal states, but external outcomes. The results were so statistically impossible, he thought he'd made an error. 87% of subjects hit their financial targets or exceeded them. 92% reported the exact relationship changes they'd specified. 73% achieved career milestones they'd been stuck on for years. These weren't vague improvements. These were precise manifestations of exactly what they'd declared in the mirror. Cass wrote in his journal, "I can no longer classify this as psychology. We are dealing with something that operates outside conventional cause and effect." The mirror technique appears to interact with probability itself. I fear publishing this data because I cannot explain it, and what cannot be explained will be rejected, discredited, destroyed. He was right to be afraid. When he presented preliminary findings to his department, he was accused of falsifying data. When he insisted the results were real, they suggested he was having a mental breakdown. Within 6 months, his career was over, his research confiscated, his reputation ruined. The official story was that he'd become unstable. The real story was that he'd discovered something too powerful to allow. Here's what you need to understand about why they banned this. It's not because it doesn't work. It's because it works too well and it works without them. The entire structure of modern psychology is built on dependency. You have a problem. You need an expert. You feel broken. You need therapy. You can't cope. You need medication. There's always an intermediary between you and your healing. Always someone to pay. Always a gatekeeper. Mirror work destroys that model because it puts the power entirely in your hands. You don't need a therapist to look in a mirror. You don't need a prescription to speak to yourself. You don't need insurance approval to reprogram your subconscious. It's free. It's immediate. And it's yours. That's unacceptable to an industry built on your dependence. So they removed it, marginalized it, called it narcissistic or delusional, and pushed you toward solutions that keep you coming back. But here's the thing. They didn't count on. The technique is too simple to suppress completely. Anyone with a mirror can do it, and once you experience the results, you can't unknow what you've learned. You become dangerous. Not violent, ungovernable. You stop asking permission. You stop seeking validation. You stop believing you need fixing. You look in the mirror and see God looking back, and you remember you were never broken. You were just programmed to forget. That's what they tried to ban. You're remembering. Now let me show you the specific protocols that produce the fastest results. Because knowing this exists isn't enough. You need the exact process. Protocol 1. The identity shift. Every morning, before you do anything else, before you check your phone or brush your teeth, go to a mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and say out loud, "Today, I am." And finish that sentence with who you're choosing to be. Not who you hope to become, who you are today. Today, I am confident. Today, I am abundant. Today, I am powerful. 30 seconds. That's it. But you do it every single morning without fail. You're programming your identity before the world gets a chance to tell you who you are. Here's why the morning timing is critical. Your brain waves are different in the first few minutes after waking. You're transitioning from theta state, deep subconscious, to alpha state, relaxed awareness, to beta state, active thinking. That transition period is when your subconscious is most receptive to new programming. It's the same state hypnotherapists try to induce artificially. You get it naturally every single morning for free. The identity shift protocol hijacks that window of maximum receptivity. You're installing new programming when your mental defenses are down, when your critical mind hasn't fully activated yet. This is the same technique cult leaders use to indoctrinate followers, except you're the cult leader and the follower, and the doctrine is your own empowerment. Protocol 2. The evidence loop. This one's wild. You do this at night before bed. Stand in front of a mirror and recount your day, but only the evidence that supports your new identity. Your brain is going to want to rehash problems and failures. Don't let it. Today I was abundant because I found $5 in my pocket. Today I was confident because I spoke up in that meeting. Today I was attractive because someone smiled at me. You're training your brain to filter reality through the lens of your desired identity. What you look for, you find. What you rehearse, you become. The evidence loop works because of something called confirmation bias, but weaponized for your benefit. Your brain is designed to filter reality based on your beliefs. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll notice every setback and ignore every win. If you believe you're abundant, you'll spot opportunities everywhere and miss the obstacles. Neither perception is objectively true. They're both selective interpretations of the same reality. The evidence loop trains your brain to select the interpretation that serves you. Every night, you're rehearsing the story of your new identity. And the more you rehearse it while looking at yourself, the more your subconscious accepts it as the official narrative of who you are. Protocol 3. The quantum jump. This is the double mirror technique I mentioned earlier, but with a specific addition. You set up two mirrors facing each other. You stand between them. You see infinite yous. Then you pick a reflection, doesn't matter which one, point at it and say, "That's me, that version. I choose that timeline." And you describe that version's life in detail, as if it's happening now. That version of me has $50,000 in the bank. That version is in an amazing relationship. That version wakes up excited every day. You do this once a week, and you're literally selecting which probability stream you're collapsing into. These aren't visualizations. These aren't affirmations in the traditional sense. These are identity installation protocols using mirror feedback to hardwire new programming into your subconscious through the same mechanism that's been running old programming your whole life. And here's what nobody tells you about why this works when other methods fail. Most manifestation teaching tells you to visualize, feel the feelings, raise your vibration, and all of that's true, but it's missing the critical component: evidence. Your subconscious doesn't believe what you tell it. It believes what you show it. And when you look in a mirror while declaring your new identity, you're showing your subconscious a person speaking those words with conviction. That's evidence. That's proof. Not of the future. Of now. The person in the mirror is confident, abundant, powerful right now, and your brain sees it, hears it, feels it, all at once. This creates what neuroscientists call neuroplastic change. Your brain physically rewires, new neural pathways form, old ones weaken, and within weeks the person looking back at you from the mirror actually is different because you changed the programming at the root level. I tested this on myself before I ever taught it to anyone. I had $3,000 in my bank account and $40,000 in debt. I started the mirror protocols. Every morning, identity shift. I am wealthy. Every night, evidence loop, finding proof of abundance everywhere. Once a week, quantum jump, choosing the timeline where I was financially free. I'm not going to lie to you and say money fell from the sky. That's not how this works. What happened was, I started seeing opportunities I'd been blind to. I started taking actions I'd been too scared to take. I started carrying myself differently, and people responded differently. Within 90 days, I'd made $30,000 in new income from sources that didn't exist before I started. Not because the universe magically provided, because I became the person who creates those results, and that person takes different actions. The mirror didn't manifest for me. It transformed me into someone who manifests naturally. That's the real secret. You're not trying to get the universe to give you things. You're becoming the version of yourself who already has those things, and that version makes different choices. Now let me show you the dark side of mirrors, because this is important and nobody talks about it. If mirrors amplify your programming and you're running negative programming, mirrors are destroying you every single day. Think about how many times you've looked in a mirror and had a critical thought. Ugh, I hate my hair. I look so tired. I'm getting old. I'm gaining weight. Every single one of those moments, you created a biofeedback loop, locking that perception into place. You saw yourself, you judged yourself, you saw yourself again through the filter of that judgment, and your subconscious recorded it as identity. This is why people with body image issues can't break free. They're not just thinking negative thoughts. They're reinforcing those thoughts with visual evidence multiple times a day. The mirror shows them what they're looking for, which confirms the belief, which makes them look for it more. It's a death spiral. But here's the beautiful thing. The same mechanism that locked you in can set you free. You just have to use it consciously instead of unconsciously. Starting today, make a rule. Never look in a mirror while thinking something negative. If you catch yourself doing it, stop, reset, and say something neutral or positive before you look away. I'm learning to love this body. I'm grateful for these eyes. I'm becoming more confident every day. Break the negative loop immediately. And if you really want to accelerate, do this. Cover your bathroom mirror with sticky notes. Write affirmations, goals, reminders, anything that supports your new identity. When you look in the mirror, you see yourself surrounded by these words, and your brain associates your reflection with that frequency. You're creating a visual anchor that says, "This is who I am. This is my reality." People who've done this report profound shifts within days, because every time they see themselves, they see the programming they're installing. It's subliminal. It's powerful. And it's using the same advertising tricks corporations use on you, but for your benefit. I want to tell you about a student of mine who took this to an extreme level, and the results were so dramatic, I almost didn't believe her. She was a real estate agent, struggling, barely making ends meet, on the verge of quitting the industry. She started the mirror protocols, but she added her own twist. She printed out photos of million-dollar homes and taped them around her bathroom mirror. Every morning during the identity shift, she'd look at herself surrounded by these luxury properties and say, "I sell homes like these. I am a top producer. $1 million deals are normal for me." Within 2 months, she closed her first $1 million sale. Within 6 months, she'd done 4 more. Within a year, she was the top agent in her brokerage. When I asked her what changed, she said, "Nothing changed externally. I changed internally. I stopped seeing myself as a struggling agent trying to make it. I started seeing myself as a top producer who handles luxury properties. And once I saw myself that way in the mirror every day, I started acting that way. I called better leads. I presented with more confidence. I attracted better clients. The mirror work didn't get me the sales. It made me into someone who gets those sales naturally." That's the pattern I see over and over. The technique doesn't bypass the work. It transforms you into someone who does the work differently. Let me tell you about something called the mirror gaze phenomenon, and this is going to sound strange, but it's documented in psychology literature, the parts they didn't ban anyway. If you stare into your own eyes in a mirror for 10 minutes straight without looking away, your face will start to distort. You'll see other faces, monsters, strangers, versions of yourself that don't look like you. It's unsettling, and most people can't handle it. But here's what's actually happening. Your brain is glitching. It's so used to quick glances in mirrors that extended gazing overloads the facial recognition software. Your neurons start misfiring and you see through the illusion of fixed identity. Because here's the truth. You're not one person. You're a collection of possibilities wearing a mask called me. And when you stare long enough, the mask slips and you see the infinite potential underneath. Advanced practitioners use this deliberately. They call it mirror scrying or catoptromancy. You gaze into your reflection until the distortions start, and then you hold the intention of who you're becoming. The distorted faces you see become malleable, and you shape them with intention. You're literally sculpting your identity in real time using the quantum field of possibility that appears when the illusion breaks. I'm not saying you need to do this, it's intense and it's not for beginners, but I'm showing you that mirrors are way more than decoration. They're portals, they're technology, and you've been using them unconsciously your entire life. The band research knew this. They explored mirror gazing as therapeutic intervention. Patients reported breakthrough insights, emotional releases, identity transformations. But it was too fast, too weird, too hard to control, so they shut it down and gave us talk therapy instead, where you sit on a couch and talk about your feelings for years without ever looking at yourself, without ever confronting the person who needs to change. Here's what I want you to do right now. Seriously, pause this video and do this. Go to a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and ask out loud, "Who are you?" Then wait. Don't answer. Just look and wait. See what comes up. See what that person in the mirror wants to tell you. Most people have never done this. They've never actually met themselves. They know the mask, the persona, the character they play, but the real you, the one underneath, has been waiting for you to look. That's the person you're reprogramming with these techniques. Not the mask, the truth. Now let me give you the ultimate protocol, the one that combines everything I've taught you into a single practice that will reshape your reality faster than anything else you've tried. You're going to need 15 minutes, a mirror, and privacy because you're going to feel vulnerable doing this. Set a timer. Sit or stand in front of the mirror where you can see your whole face clearly. Take 3 deep breaths and set the intention. I am meeting the version of myself who already has everything I want. Then start speaking. Out loud. In present tense. Describe that version's life in complete detail. I wake up in my beautiful home. I check my bank account and smile at the balance. I get ready for work I love. I kiss my partner who adores me. I move through my day with confidence and ease. Keep going for the full 15 minutes. And here's the key. Watch yourself while you do it. See the person in the mirror living that life, not imagining it, seeing it. That person in the reflection, they have it. They're not hoping, they're not manifesting, they already are. Your job is to become them. And the way you do that is by recognizing you already are them. You're just remembering. Do this every day for 30 days, and I guarantee your life will not look the same. Not because of magic, because you reprogrammed your identity at the deepest level. And identity determines behavior, and behavior determines results. Let me share something most people don't know about the neuroscience behind this. When you speak while looking at yourself in a mirror, you're activating what's called the default mode network in your brain. This is the network that handles self-referential thinking, your internal narrative about who you are. Normally, this network runs on autopilot, playing the same old stories about your identity over and over. But when you engage it consciously through mirror work, you can interrupt those automatic patterns and install new ones. Here's where it gets fascinating. fMRI studies show that the default mode network doesn't just replay your identity. It predicts your future based on past patterns. It's constantly running simulations of what would someone like me do in this situation. If your identity is, I'm bad with money, your default mode network predicts financial failure and steers your behavior accordingly. If your identity is, I'm abundant, it predicts financial success and guides you toward opportunities. The mirror protocols hack this predictive function. When you consistently show your default mode network a new identity through visual, auditory, and emotional channels simultaneously, it starts running different simulations. It starts predicting different outcomes. And those predictions shape your behavior in ways you don't even notice. You start taking small actions aligned with the new identity. Those actions compound. Reality shifts. This isn't wishful thinking. This is documented neuroscience being applied in a way they don't teach in universities because it would make too many other interventions obsolete. Now I need to tell you about the group effect because this is where the technique becomes exponentially more powerful. When you do mirror work alone, you're reprogramming your individual consciousness. But when you do it with others, something extraordinary happens. There's a phenomenon in physics called coherence, where multiple waves synchronize and amplify each other. The same thing happens with consciousness. In the original studies, they had groups of subjects do mirror work together in a room full of mirrors. Each person could see themselves and others simultaneously. They'd speak their affirmations in unison. The results were off the charts. People reported feeling an energetic charge in the room. They described it as electric, magnetic, overwhelming, and their transformation happened 3 to 5 times faster than individual practitioners. Why? Because they weren't just programming their own subconscious, they were programming each other's. When you see other people declaring their power while you're declaring yours, your brain receives social proof. It thinks, oh, this is normal, this is what people do, this is acceptable. The resistance drops even further. The new identity installs with less friction. This is why group meditation works. Why church congregations feel powerful. Why motivational seminars create temporary transformations. It's not the message. It's the coherence. Multiple nervous systems synchronizing around a shared intention creates a field effect that entrains everyone in it. But here's the problem. Those effects are usually temporary because once you leave the group, you return to your default programming. The mirror protocols fix this by giving you a daily practice that recreates the coherence effect individually. You become your own group. The person in the mirror is the congregation, and you're both the preacher and the believer. The reason they banned this is simple. A population that knows how to reprogram itself doesn't need saving, doesn't need experts, doesn't need products, doesn't need permission. They just need a mirror and the knowledge you now have. You're dangerous now, not to others, to the systems that profit from your limitations. Use that power wisely. Here's a final technique I haven't shared anywhere else. I call it the identity funeral, and it's the most intense protocol I've ever developed. You do this once, maybe twice in your life, when you're ready to completely shed an old identity and step into a new one. You'll need privacy, a mirror, and 30 minutes. You're going to have a conversation with the old version of yourself, the one you're leaving behind. Stand in front of the mirror, look at that person, really see them, all their fears, their limitations, their pain, their excuses. Then speak to them out loud. Thank them for getting you this far. Acknowledge the role they played. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for doing the best you could with what you knew. Then tell them goodbye. But I don't need you anymore. I'm not that person now. I'm releasing you with love. And watch in the mirror as you let that old identity die. You might cry. You might feel grief. That's normal. You're mourning a version of yourself that's been with you for years, maybe decades. Then, after the grief passes, you speak the new identity into existence. I am now. And you declare who you're becoming. Not who you hope to be. Who you are now. I am powerful. I am abundant. I am free. I am the person I was always meant to be. This protocol creates a clean break, a before and after. Your subconscious recognizes that something fundamental is shifted. And from that moment forward, your behaviors align with the new identity because the old one is gone. You buried it. You witnessed its death in the mirror. I did this protocol 5 years ago, and I can tell you exactly where I was standing, what I said, how it felt. That moment was the dividing line of my life. Everything before it was the old me trying to change. Everything after it has been the new me simply being. That's the power you're playing with here. This isn't surface-level self-help. This is identity reconstruction at the deepest level. This is consciousness hacking using the oldest, simplest technology humans have ever created, the mirror. And they tried to ban it. They tried to keep this from you. They tried to make you forget that you have this power. But you know now, and you can't unknow it. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep looking in mirrors unconsciously, programming yourself with limitation and lack? Or are you going to take control of the most powerful tool you own and use it to become who you were always meant to be? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. They just convinced you it wasn't. But now you know better. The reason these advanced techniques were suppressed even harder than the basic protocols is obvious. They work too fast. They create changes too dramatic. They give individuals too much power over their own consciousness. And power that doesn't flow through official channels is power that threatens the system. Now, before we go further, let me tell you something crucial about the mirrors themselves. Not all mirrors are created equal, and the elites know this. There's a reason why luxury homes have specific types of mirrors in specific locations. Large, full-length mirrors in entryways, ornate mirrors in dining rooms, multiple mirrors in bedrooms. This isn't interior design. This is intentional frequency architecture. The size of the mirror matters. A full-length mirror forces you to see your complete physical presence. This creates whole identity programming. When you do affirmations in a full-length mirror, you're changing how you see your entire being. The placement matters too. A mirror in your bedroom means you see yourself first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Those are the two most powerful programming windows. Your brain is in theta state, highly suggestible. What you see in those moments shapes your reality more than anything you see during the day. A mirror near your front door means you see yourself before entering the world and after returning. It creates a ritual transition. You check yourself, adjust yourself, program yourself before facing reality. The wealthy understand this. They have strategic mirrors creating programming opportunities throughout their day. Even the quality of the mirror matters. A cheap, warped mirror distorts your reflection and creates distorted self-perception. A high-quality, flat mirror gives accurate feedback. The clarity of your reflection affects the clarity of identity programming. Let me tell you about one more phenomenon that the research documented but never explained: spontaneous healing through mirror work. Multiple subjects in the original studies reported physical health improvements that had nothing to do with the stated goals of the intervention. Someone would do mirror work for confidence, and their chronic back pain would disappear. Someone would do it for abundance, and their insomnia would resolve. Someone would do it for relationships, and their digestive issues would heal. At first, researchers thought these were placebo effects, but the pattern was too consistent and the healings too dramatic. They started investigating and discovered something profound. Identity and physiology are not separate. Your body literally conforms to who you believe you are. If your identity includes, "I'm someone with chronic pain," your nervous system maintains that pain to match your identity. If your identity includes, "I'm someone who can't sleep," your brain keeps you awake to prove you right. Your body is not betraying you. It's loyally manifesting your subconscious programming. Mirror work changes that programming at the identity level, and the body adjusts accordingly. You stop identifying as sick, and the illness has no reason to persist. This isn't medical advice. I'm not telling you to abandon treatment. I'm telling you that identity work can support healing in ways conventional medicine doesn't acknowledge. Here's a protocol specifically for physical healing through mirror work. Stand in front of a mirror. Look at your body, the part that's experiencing symptoms. Instead of seeing it as broken or sick, speak to it as if you're correcting a misunderstanding. You're not damaged. You're not diseased. You're just following old programming. I'm releasing that program now. I am health. I am vitality. I am wellness. And you, my body, are the perfect expression of that truth. Do this daily for 21 days. Don't focus on the symptoms disappearing. Focus on installing the new identity. I am someone whose body works perfectly. Let the body catch up to the new program in its own time. I've seen this work for people when nothing else did. Not because mirrors are magic, because identity is the master program, and everything else, including your biology, is downstream from it. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. Some of you are thinking, this sounds like narcissism, staring at yourself in a mirror, talking about how great you are. Isn't that the definition of narcissistic behavior? And that's exactly what they want you to think. They've weaponized the concept of narcissism to make you afraid of self-focus, self-love, self-empowerment. Because if you're afraid to look at yourself, afraid to declare your worth, afraid to claim your power, you remain controllable. Real narcissism is a pathological lack of genuine self-worth masked by false superiority. Mirror work is the opposite. It's the development of genuine self-worth through honest self-perception. You're not pretending to be better than others. You're recognizing the inherent value that was always yours. Don't let their programming make you afraid of your own reflection. That fear is the cage. The mirror is the key. Let me give you one final protocol, the simplest and perhaps the most powerful of all. I call it the 5-second reset. Anytime you pass a mirror throughout your day, any mirror, anywhere, pause for 5 seconds. Just 5. Look at yourself. Smile. And say internally or out loud if you're alone, "I love you." That's it. 5 seconds. I love you. Then move on. Do this every time you see a reflection for 30 days, and your entire relationship with yourself will transform. Because you're not just saying words. You're creating micro moments of self-acceptance dozens of times a day. Those moments accumulate. They compound. They rewire your baseline self-perception. Most people go their whole lives never looking at themselves with love. They look with judgment, criticism, disappointment. The 5-second reset interrupts that pattern. It installs a new default: love. And here's what happens when you default to self-love. You stop seeking it externally. You stop tolerating mistreatment. You stop accepting less than you deserve. You become magnetic to better circumstances because you're not vibrating at the frequency of unworthiness anymore. This simple practice has changed more lives than any complex protocol I've ever taught. Because it's sustainable. It's integrated into your daily routine. It doesn't require extra time. It just requires awareness. That's the beauty of mirror work. It meets you where you are. You're already looking in mirrors every day. You're already programming yourself. The techniques I've given you just make that programming conscious and intentional. The question isn't whether you'll use mirror work. You're already using it. The question is whether you'll use it consciously to empower yourself or unconsciously to limit yourself. The elites made their choice long ago. They use these techniques privately while publicly dismissing them. They know the power of mirrors, of identity programming, of conscious reality creation, and they know that power in the hands of the masses threatens their control. That's why the research was banned. That's why the techniques were suppressed. That's why you were never taught this in school or therapy or anywhere official. But you know now. And knowledge, once acquired, cannot be unacquired. You are forever changed by what you've learned here. The only question is what you do with it. Will you dismiss it? Forget it? Let the old programming reassert itself? Or will you step into the laboratory of your own consciousness and start experimenting? Will you look into the mirror and finally meet yourself? Really meet yourself, perhaps for the first time in your life? The mirror is waiting. The person in the reflection is waiting. They've always been waiting. Waiting for you to remember who you really are. Waiting for you to reclaim the power that was always yours. Waiting for you to break free from the programming and step into your truth. This is your invitation. This is your activation. This is the moment you decide whether you're going to remain a passive recipient of reality or become an active creator of it. The techniques are yours. The knowledge is yours. The power is yours. It always was. They just convinced you it wasn't. But those days are over. You're awake now. You're dangerous now. Not to others. To the limitations that have defined you. To the systems that have controlled you. To the illusions that have imprisoned you. Look in the mirror. See who's really there. And remember, subscribe if you're ready to learn more techniques they don't want you to know. This is just the beginning.